Ladies and gentlemen, are we live? Yes, we are. We are live once again, coming at you live and in color from my secret undisclosed location on Newport Harbor, Newport Beach, California. And this is your somewhat you could say, politically savvy host, Abby Kaufman. And we're here to take your calls and to kind of give you my thoughts on relative to a certain political matter. Uh, Guys, I say it's 949-629-3820. And of course, if there's a can or argument to be made, if you have your own thoughts, please feel free to call in. Um, but as you may have recalled from yesterday, I was thinking a little testy about the fact that July 4th is no longer for everybody, and that the blatant, hijacking of the event by a certain orange tinged subhuman creature that it's inhabiting the White House, that it's just another common element, another bond that's been ripped away. And remember when he talked about how his victory in 2020 was unceremoniously stripped away or taken away. Well, whenever he says that, you have to remember that he's doing the taking away. He's doing the stripping and the taking away. I'm going to, go into a little more detail in a minute. But in the coincidences between the New York Times and the Financial Times are not to be believed. This was, kind of did my heart good. Uh, but yeah, going back to the celebration of the Fourth, it's a celebration again that's Trump's way of the highway. These and George Bush, the W was like that. These guys all have a tendency to be in my way of the highway guys, and the problem is their way is usually wrong, and after they get it, then they double down and make it twice as wrong. The first, if you're a really decent guy, you'll kind of admit your mistake and make amends and move on. If you just are intent on building on the lie, then you will, of course, double down on the lie. There's an old political thing that wrong and strong beats right and weak or whatever it is. And, people are so detached these days. Chris Hayes called it an attention deficit, and we all have an attention deficit. Everybody's competing for every second that our eyeballs are open, and you got to make choices. That's why there's a deficit. Sometimes you step later than you should. It adds to the deficit. And I'm going to segue with a thought relative to the word deficit. And it's just past time Republicans get off their hypocritical horse about this. Uh, Donald Trump has added $3.8 trillion. I thought it's going early, but I'm going to repeat that. $3.8 trillion to the deficit by himself. He increased it 10%. And, I can say he increased it 10% by himself, but we know how it came to be. The Republicans voted on it and passed it in both houses, in the Senate and in the House. And, when you have that kind of criminality going on, it reminds me of the thing about the two policemen that would go to like the, 800 square foot house. And one of them would go to the front door and say, "Knock, this is police. I've got a warrant." And the guy in the back yells, "Oh, come in." One does something wrong, the other swears to it. Not unlike Todd Blanche and the January 6th fund. And not unlike these guys complaining about money for waste, fraud, and abuse, but they blow a cajillion dollars more. And all that does is because those words are such key words, waste, fraud, and abuse, that everybody subconsciously trickles in on it, and they just don't zero in on the other side of the ledger, the deficit that he's increased, which is just unconscionable. How could we do this? I don't. I'm a loyal Democrat, but the spending's just. And if you want to go up on taxes, that's fine. Just keep things kind of in balance. Of course, nobody is crazy about a tax increase, but I want to tell you something. In the states, despite what's going on in DC now, we have excuse me. Well, we have a system that says you have to commit a criminal act, and then we have to catch you and charge you and go through the routine. Uh, so much of the stuff Trump does is by executive order, and I can analogize that to executive fiat. It's not as if the king is issuing an order, but that's the basic concept. And of course, they do this to avoid that messy need for like laws that have to be voted on by the House and the Senate. So this is just a real uh, way to shortcut the legislature. And I would tell you, it was my belief that when this happened to Barack Obama, and I think this is how Obamacare came to be. And to my way of thinking, that on that particular instance, the good so far outweighs the harm. As a matter of social policy, I'll go for it. But there's no social policy here. If there is, it's ex post facto. Who in their right minds believes that Trump is even capable of a plan? Who believe? I got a better question than that. Who in the world believes that Trump is capable of sitting for an hour, listening to plans, and then making a rational choice? Gosh, I don't hear a soul speak up. I guess that would be because it was impossible to get Trump to come to a rational decision. It's just not what he's capable of. And it's so regrettable. One of my friends' dads had the saying about water always seeking its own level, but this guy has failed and lied his way to the presidency. Uh, twice, twice, and like he did it once, and we learned. We gotta learn the hard way. And again, you're confronted with these Trump supporters that that don't that are not capable of judging evidence objectively. I cannot imagine anyone sitting through the January 6th hearings, which I did, and could not come away convinced that that was an airtight case. Now, I'll be the first one to tell you there was no defense. There was just more or less framed as a prosecution, kind of laying out how things would work if it were uh, justiciable or in the courts. So, and again, the case has to be kind of like a live controversy. So there's, all kinds of requirements, but again, there was just no defense presented. And I would really like to see two really great law schools, maybe like Georgetown and GW. I'd like to have those guys debate the guilt or innocence of January 6th. Flip a coin, see which side you get. And I'd love to see this and make and I'm sure the evidence is open and preserved, remarkably well preserved by the House. And you have to hand it to those guys because they are reelected every 2 years instead of every four like the president or every six like senators. They have to go before their constituents every other year and ask uh, or try to win their vote. Uh, uh, so, hey, guys, I'm trying to keep my throat kind of lubricated today. I keep saying I want to go past an hour, and sometimes my voice just doesn't get me there. But anyway, and I'm going to shift to the subject of money. And you remember the Wayans brothers and Homie the Clan and all that? And it was about more money, and more money. Well, if I'm not mistaken, that's pretty much what Donald Trump just did. He made the presidency he made what, $1.4 billion last year. And apparently he only kind of did that part time because he was president. And at some point, wasn't he doing some presidenting stuff between all that money making? Uh, and of course, I love this. There's a phrase that follows Donald Trump like poopy doo. And it is details not disclosed. But I can tell you that after digging around, it looks like the bulk of that, $1.4 billion or 1.8 did he make? 1.4. Anyway, something like that. It's over $1 billion. Uh, so the largest bit of that came. I love this when the Saudis bought 50% of World Liberty Financial, which is the Trump crypto biz, or how about the Trump crypto scam headquarters? How about that? So now we have the Trump scam, uh, uh, crypto thing, and so yeah. So imagine this. Imagine I'm like the president, and imagine I kind of wait until after I was president, and some hot new technology comes along, and it's turning sand into oil. Okay, so that seems pretty valuable, right? But this is just like a brokerage house. They just transact business. And so the Saudis gave him over $500 million for half of World Liberty Financial. Now, World Liberty Financial is not worth nearly that much, if you know what I mean. And the Internal Revenue Service would categorize the amount over the fair market value as being a disguised gift. And now I think that the disguised gift is more like the obvious reality of bribery. Don't you think that might make there's some argument to be made that Trump paid us a little more attention to the Saudis after this transaction than before? I don't know. I'm sure this was kind of a rounding area for the Saudis. $500 million, but it's like what's his name? Barry Goldwater used to say, a billion here and a billion there before you know it, you're talking real money. So we know this for a fact. He made 1.8 billion dollars, whatever it was. And just out of curiosity, do you guys know that in Orange County, uh, it takes a salary of over $104,000 for an individual to not be low income? Okay, so things are a little expensive out here. Uh, but anyway, I'm sure Trump can pretty much handle it with his newfound wealth. Okay, so he's in the White House, and his son Bannon says something like, "Oh, Dad, this crypto stuff is really cool. We should get in on it." And of course, the most dangerous place in the world is between Donald Trump and a dollar. So of course he moves Bannon out of the way to get business, and he starts this thing, and they do like meme coins, and the common thing is, excuse me, all the retail consumers or whatever it is, they just lost their cash. It was just kind of a worthless deal. But excuse me, Trump was able to trade half of the business, half of the piece of paper for $500 million. So, guys, did anybody get a raise this recently? If you did get a raise recently, God knows, call and let us know, 949-629-3820. Because if you got a raise in these days and times, I just wonder how it compares to, like when the guy in the White House is managing to acquire. And, it's just so true. Trump betrays everybody and everything. It happens. Who hasn't he sold out? He sold out our allies. He sold out the Middle East. He sold out South America. The only people that kind of are the only people that I think consistently manhandle him are Russia and China. And there's no way you can tell me that he's capable of chatting with either Xi or Putin on any sort of an intelligent basis. I mean, the guy's delusional and a dumbass. The reason he's delusional is because these guys have had 60 opportunities to present evidence, not to prove the case, mind you, but just to present some evidence, and they couldn't do it. And then there was that Kristen Walker interview a couple of weeks ago where she's pressing him on, facts and evidence, you could call it, to support his claim that the 2020 was rigged. And the president just goes livid. He's just ballistic. He's being challenged, and and he's got and in his arsenal he has bufkas. He's got no way to defend this. So of course, when you don't have any way to defend the whatever it is at hand, you attack the person. And I think anybody can pretty well tell that that the person that Kristen Walker did get attacked. But I thought she really tried to hold her own. And I tell you what, real takeaway from that for me was that she's pressing him for fact checks on the evidence. And where's the evidence? And the president says, well, we have lots of evidence. We just haven't shown it to you in court yet. And Walker's something like, well, kind of like, why not? And the guy said, and then she says something like, how do you know it's true? And Trump says, I know the truth. And Walker goes, how? And Trump says something like, I know what I see and I know what my people tell me. So if his people tell him something, it's true. If anybody else tells him, it's false. And keep in mind that if you tell him anything that's false, you just may have talked yourself out of a job. So he has a real chilling First Amendment effect. I mean, that way he's kind of already won. I can't wait to see I can't wait to see him in jail. Like I say, what impeach, convict, incarcerate. I think that's and the whole lock him up thing. Who ought to be locked up now? And guys, I'm gonna keep hammering this home. $1.4 billion while in office. So that kind of begs the question: who's like he representing? Okay, I think that he's representing himself because he made over $500,000. I don't see where the society at large is served. And what's going to add insult to injury is even if he doesn't get the immunity from the tax case, he's still not going to pay it. He won't report it. He'll do something. Uh, this is just guys. It really is time we address the elephant or you address the elephant in the room. We can try to make nice and talk around claims and falsehoods and all this, uh, but when you strip it away for his entire life, and I don't mean this year, I don't mean 2026, I don't mean 2024, I don't mean 2020, I don't even mean 1996. But what I want you to do is go back to like the what they call it, the Central Park Five. And if you go back before then, he and his dad got sanctioned for not renting to black people. And there's just, there's a racist history. And racism, let's get this clear. This doesn't mean that you just think, oh, well, I tell you, let's say what it is and what it isn't. Uh, Racism is a means by which one group of society considers themselves superior to the other culture, and that other culture is therefore obligated to serve the superior culture. That's racism, and that's just putting all minorities down at once. Uh, but we don't do that because some minority members are right and some are wrong. It's just it's kind of like life. But in doing this 1.4 billion, acquiring this 1.4 billion. Oh, and you know what else? Silly me. I guess this is kind of like a related entity, wouldn't you think? Didn't the Saudis also kick a cool, was it 2 billion or 5 billion to Jared Kushner for his Affinity Partners project? Uh, and so he's instantly got $2 billion under management. And I don't know what those guys spend. It's beyond me. I can't even imagine. Uh, but I'm sure that's talking a nice little piece of change, even if it just sits in your bank account for a while. Uh, so you see the ways the money just comes into these people, and we haven't even gotten really far into uh, Donald Jr. or Eric. You know, Ivanka's still a piece of work. And, you know, it's not like those guys can leave anything alone. It's like if they see something and if it's untouched, well, they want it. And if they can buy it, great. If they can steal it, even better. You know, no cash. Thanks. And while we're on the subject of cash, let's talk about Donald Trump's business acumen that people seem to keep always going back to. I have a list somewhere, and it's, let me see if I can put my hands on it. It is like four, several pages. Guys, we are in luck of Trump, of examples of Trump business failures. So let's take a look here. Okay, here we are. And just for the record, I don't know if you can see this here, but it's called Trump's Bungles. 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 Like bungle in the jungle or bungle wherever you want to bungle. So anyway, this is a basic rundown. And this is the master businessman part. And this is like the track record casinos in that famous city of Atlantic City, New Jersey. And it seems like there were 6 Chapter 11 bankruptcies across Trump-related casino and hotel ventures. Guys, I'm telling you, I almost can't read this stuff. It's so bad. But guess what? You didn't read it either because you voted for the guy, and then you took when I asked you why, you said because you thought he was a better businessman. I'm like, the guy's done the same thing. And all these bankruptcies follow the same pattern. He goes and buys whatever it is, loads it up with debt, and guess what? Declares bankruptcy, and the lenders are stuck. They can't do anything, and in the meantime, Trump walks off into the sunset with 60 million here, 100 million here. And, before you know it, you made a decent living. And I just don't think that any of us got the kind of raises or have had the opportunity to uh, to make enough more money to where we could contribute meaningfully to a retirement. I mean, the guy, it's just it's beyond criminal. It's so brazen, it's out in the open, and if you want to know what the Europeans are thinking, trust me, it ain't what Trump thinks it is. Now, that was on the front page of the New York Times. Trump's business would reap 2 billion filings go, so it was 1.8, and of course the windfall was from the bulk of the crypto deal. And anyway, and but then in the Financial Times, and I want you to promise me you won't laugh too hard. This is kind of this is a real test of credibility. I don't see if I can do this with a straight face. This is the headline from the Financial Times, July 2nd, 2026. I'm sorry. It's like if this was on Saturday Night Live, it could not be any funnier. Trump denies conflicts of interest as filings show he made $1.4 billion, and I think the bulk of it was like from the crypto sales and the meme coins and and there's wasn't there like a huge amount of stock that he bought and sold. And somebody's executing those trades. They don't just happen. I mean, you can set it up to happen, but that's not typically how it's done. I guarantee it's not how it's been done here. But yeah, how about that? He denies a conflict of interest. I'm sure he has probably has a little misunderstanding as to what that actually means. Mm. But the guy's just a lunatic. It's incredible to me. And if I were him, I might not brag as much about one of those cognitive tests where it kind of asks you if to name and to point out the elephant could point out the tiger in the in the picture. And we ain't talking find the Pope in the pizza. I mean, this is dead simple. They're trying to cater to Alzheimer's patients and dementia patients. They want these people to pass. But then again, we got to remember Trump aced that thing, and nobody could ace it like he aced it. And the general vibe I'm getting is that I forgot what the old expression is. The jig is up. At this point, Trump has well and truly exposed himself as a kind of the guy that will sell out anybody for a dollar and take enjoyment out of it. That's one of those narcissistic motivators. As if he can make somebody feel bad, he will because it makes him feel good. And I think that's pretty much perversion and you know un-American and everything else. But he's here and we have to deal with him. So, and I think about, but anyway, let me go back to the Times for a second. The front page was of course, the mo money, mo money, mo money. But I forgot who wrote this. But this was in the opinion section, and it was called "America Deserves to Know What's in Jack Smith's Report." And her argument was that because there is no and has been no government prosecution, that that Trump essentially has gotten away with it and has not been held accountable. I mean, we really don't know what he did to. Well, we have some basic idea, but we want the specifics of what really happened, and we'd like a fair trial, and the verdicts will come, and the verdicts, whatever it is. Uh, but guys, isn't there some like finite end as to when the grift stops? And the answer, of course, is no. As long as he can get up and take a breath, there's going to be another grift coming along. Oh, and guys, while we're talking about grifts, was Melania's not the best? That was she get Amazon and Netflix or whoever it was to pay her what $35 million for the distribution rights and another 70 for something else, and they may have recouped I don't know 5 or 10 mil out of that. So you probably have like somewhere between 50 and 70 million dollars of what the revenue service would call a disguised gift, and that disguised gift is like code word for bribery. And guys, we've got to. So anyway, so let's have Eileen Cannon or have the legislature or Congress, whatever needs to be done, have them unseal those records and let them see the light of day. I mean, this is the most transparent administration in history, isn't it? I mean, you guys want full disclosure of everything. I mean, unlike that bad man as Attorney General who held back on some of the Epstein files just because his boss was in there with allegedly in there with an allegedly 13-year-old girl that wound up in a allegedly violent sexual encounter. And I would tell you guys, guys may tend to shrug all this stuff off, but it appears to me that any woman that gets subjected to that sort of behavior is scarred. I mean, they can be scarred for life from this. And while the guy, of course, is having fun as the guy will, you've got this poor girl being brutalized and traumatized, and guys, so we need a little. We want a little accountability. We want a little justice. And it's nothing less than you guys have been promising as the most transparent administration in history. But again, the hypocrisy. Oh, we're a transparent administration, all that. Well, no, you're not. And when you say you are what? Lying. You might be bearing false witness. You might be telling tale out of school, whatever it is. But it looks, smells, and acts like you are lying. And again, are we surprised? That's why I keep talking about credibility. And again, the Latin root is something like worthy of being believed. And who is worthy of being believed? And and I got to tell you, lately, you've heard about the how well the fair is going, the Great American State Fair in Washington Mall. With if you believe Donald Trump, it's 45,000 people shoulder to shoulder. If you believe, the reporters and all that, and the photographic evidence from news organizations, you'll see this more like 1,000 people. Okay, so let's take that for as a starting point. Donald Trump says it's 45,000 people. It was packed and everybody was having a great time. And you've got the other guys saying, well, no, it's more like 1,000 people, and the crowd was pretty thin. Okay. And the coincidence is that it wasn't that long ago, but Trump was trying to tell us that his original inauguration crowd was bigger than Barack Obama's, despite the photographic evidence. Uh, so anyway, so the guys had this weird thing with obsession. Uh, but the point of okay, but now we're going to talk about whose point do we decide in favor of? Who's telling the truth? Is it the Donald Trump, 45,000 people packed shoulder to shoulder? Or is it the photographic evidence and the news reporters? Well, let's see. Uh, Donald Trump saying there's 45,000 people there reminds me of Stormy Daniels' affair when she's on the stand and the prosecutor's walking her through did you have an encounter? Yes. Donald Trump, yes. Where? The hotel room, golf tournament, something or other. And when it comes time to get a little specific, the prosecutor says, and what color underwear did the defendant have on? Red. Stormy says red underwear. Okay, red underwear. And so does that mean you saw his penis? Well, yes, I did see his penis. Were there any unusual characteristics? And Stormy goes, well, yeah, it's a little small and kind of hooked to the left. Okay, so, okay, a little small, hooked to the left. Okay, and did you guys proceed to, have sex? Well, yes, we did. Well, what did you think of the defendant? Not too good. So that's Stormy's testimony under oath, hand on the Bible. Okay. And so Donald Trump has to refute these few points. He's either got to say, like, I wasn't there and I never wear red underwear, or, I was there, it was blue underwear, and, but I never showed my pants, whatever it is. So he could say not only that, my penis is large and it's not crooked. There's no hook to the left. Okay, and he can say all that to argue against the point by point made by Stormy. So, but now, how does Trump counteract Stormy's testimony? What does he say? And this will be the other side of the argument to be believed. And what does he say? Never saw her before in my life. So imagine this: you've got the jurors in the jury box, you've got the judge in in the judge's chair, whatever you call it, and he's got to decide, or they have to decide, which of these two stories are true. Which one of these two people is more likely than not to be telling the truth? And so you go, On the one hand, I got Stormy Daniels, who's kind of a stripper and maybe a bit of a escort or hooker, whatever it is. Or you've got this really rich guy from New York who's the president, who just so happened to win the presidency. Who do you believe? Well, if you look at their past behaviors and the evidence out there, you would probably support Stormy. You would have every reason in the world to find that she's telling a more credible version of what happened than he is. And like his, never saw it before in my life is just laughable. But see, that's the very problem with this guy, is there's no middle ground anyway. It seems like he's either it's either manic or he's depressed, as much as an 80-year-old guy can be. Um, Now, there'll be interesting to see what happens this weekend. Saturday night is the big climax, I guess you call it. to the Great American State Fair on the Mall in Washington, D.C., between the United States Capitol and the Washington Monument. And it's really pretty. I mean, you got National History Museum on the right side, and on Pennsylvania Ave, and then you've got like the Herschel and the Air and Space Museum, and the Natural History is on the right. Going from Capitol Hill to the Washington Monument. And guys, I'm going to submit to you that we don't have holy holy cities or holy this that, and the other, but the Capitol is exactly where the the power of the United States is vested. The power of the United States vests with the people, but it's executed by representatives, which is why we have a representative democracy. And it works about as well as it could have. I think it's pretty common that a couple hundred years into a situation, and people just get kind of slack and lackadaisical, and that's why you have people today advocating for the armed overthrow of governments, or in our case, to have a an all powerful executive, even though it was the clear intent of the framers to have checks and balances and spread all this around. These guys are interpreting a power for the president that he should not have, as a matter of law or as a matter of policy. And when the Supreme Court makes a decision that is kind of wrong on the law and it's kind of wrong on the policy, they're in the bag with or in the tank with somebody. And I had always hoped to really hold the justices as being beyond reproach, um, but I can't anymore. I just there's too much commitment to things that aren't true, like too much commitment to supporting Trump's rigged election, stolen election theory. It's just time that the elephant in the room got treated like an elephant in the room. If he's the liar in chief, then that's kind of what we need to call him. And if you don't call him that, then he's not being held accountable. Then it's just a one-way street. Accounting is a two-way street, right? And all we want is some accountability as to what you did, what you're alleged to have done, and we'll decide. This is America. And and number two, we don't have prior restraints here. We exist. The press exists to inform the general public exactly what's going on, so they don't have to rely solely on the word of the politician. And you I'm sure everybody's got their own thoughts as to political journalists and investigative journalists and all that. And I don't know about you guys, but my grandmother loved the live action five to call get a little consumer help. But anyway, let's kind of leave that alone for a second. And I've been invited on a podcast to discuss how to keep our democracy going, and how it survives and all that. And it's a really hard question because it depends on who your audience is. But as I was thinking about this, I thought about how I learned some of these early lessons. And you may not, I'm sure you actually believe this, but when I was growing up, cartoons weren't very destructive. I mean, the Roadrunner and whoever it was. I also always funny they'd never seen Malicious, right? The Beep Beep the Roadrunner, and how about the Daffy Duck or someone that would play Beethoven's Fifth, and or you would hear the little jokes, and you would know that they were associated with music and all that stuff. And I think that it would be nice to have some sort of almost a cartoon how we got here kind of thing. But God knows that's getting awfully close to indoctrination, and it's 340 million people here. Have we and 340 million people, and there's not a very positive economic outlook as long as Trump is in office, and maybe for years after. I mean, the guy's so erratic that not only is he erratic, but again, it's that he doesn't. His thoughts don't conform with reality. And I really want an Oval Office speech, and I really would like him to lay out, how did we do so well in Iran? As I kind of look around, they've got access to the Strait of Hormuz to shut it down or not. They didn't have that before, so that's in their column. They have the sanctions relief. They can sell oil again. That sounds pretty positive. What else? You get the impression. You see where I'm going with this. Uh, let's see the reconstruction money, the Strait of Hormuz. Oh, and how about the Emirates and the Saudis? These guys still get attacked by Iran. Iran is still has, I think, 70% of their drone capability. So these guys ain't nearly done. And they found the kryptonite, I guess. The drones are in general so small and travel so fast, and don't get the distances in the Middle East are pretty short. Uh, so it's just I still, how did we leave our friends in a better position? Doesn't look like it. To me, it just looks like a huge loss. I'm gonna tell you on this July 4th, no, we can't. It's really rough. I mean, Iran just beat us. Iran put us in a position that our president said, "I've got to go. What do you want to let me go? I've got to get out of this deal." And Iran punched every button they could, knowing that Trump had to get out. It's, like the bear squeeze in the markets. You know, uh, Trump's got to sell. He's got to sell, and nobody's buying, so he keeps offering more and more and more. And finally, somebody buys him hook, line, and sinker. And yeah, you can. I was never. I thought Cheney was another one of those Prince Dick Cheney. That is, I was one of those Prince of Darkness guys when he was vice president under George W. Bush. Uh, but and what's his daughter's name now that's catching all the hell in Montana? Forgot. Uh, but anyway, at least Cheney, not Nancy Cheney. Anyway, whatever it is. Uh, when she spoke up, she she that did not make her a Democrat. That does not erase all the anti-democrat things she's done over the years. If anything, it just shows you how really how partisan she was. And like I said, they came forward on some things, but we can't think just because somebody sees it our way after God knows how long. Uh, we just can't be surprised at that. And another thing, how much is a presidential pardon these days? I would imagine a minimum of what, $5 to $10 million. And believe it or not, it doesn't take many of those to have a nice little piece of change. I mean, everything that happens in the White House is viewed as a business transaction. Oh, but no, and this is great. Gosh, I hope you take really, I hope this doesn't energize you too much. Uh, but Trump just ordered the FBI to go full steam into the 2020 election fraud, of which there was none. However, who is leading the charge in this? But Keystone Cash Patel, head director of the FBI, who instructed everybody to, the 2020 election fraud is a priority. So, and have we not come full circle now? Isn't he the guy who did that 2000 Mules movie that proved the election was rigged and stolen and was instead just sloppy camera work and a lot of conjecture? The guys, and people went to that thing and laughed. That might have been, see, the Melania movie was probably sad. This, you might have been able to laugh a little bit at this one, but and before I forget, on kind of the same line, there was an actor a long time ago called Peter Sellers, And Peter Sellers played this character in the movies, and he did a series of movies, Pink Panther movies, and the Pink Panther was a diamond and all this. And Inspector Clouseau always had to go chase down whoever it was. Uh, and the chief inspector would, show up in all these weird disguises and all that, but he'd still be the same grifter under it all. So anyway, I shouldn't keep pointing out these analogies between grifter and our president of the United States. Oh, and I've got a question about that for you. You remember, before we get back to Jack Smith, you remember the Jim Comey and the Seashells, the 8647 thing, and the Trump administration had him arrested for murder, attempted murder, conspiracy, something like that. Okay, so if they did that, what if you just did something casual like Donald? Why don't you leave? Why don't you gotta go? Don't you have to be somewhere? A village is missing its idiot, whatever it is. Can you do that without having the FBI investigate you? Well, the real story is probably not. I mean, it really does seem like the hard work of being president uh, isn't being taken seriously in favor of settling scores and making a few bucks. And I've heard that the number Trump wants to hit before he like bails out is, I think he wants a net worth of maybe $50 billion. And I mean, who doesn't want a net worth of $50 billion? Uh, but look at you can't disavow the influence that money has had in the White House. If Elon Musk wanted Elon Musk, do you think he'd be asked to handle Doge with a chainsaw? And what's worse is, once you see a crazy inmate like that, the other inmates keep trying to copy the insane guy. So these things just always end poorly. But there's so much money on the line that people are just scared. I think people are scared clearly that the good times are going to run out, and when good times run out, they can leave you with hard times. And we haven't been tested with this. Like I said, the Chinese have this philosophy about us, and it's something they call, I forgot but it translates into they ate too many cheeseburgers, which means we're too fat, dumb, and happy, and content, and all that to worry. And I look around, and I'm sure he's right to some degree. I mean, if you look at the voting patterns in the South, it's just astounding that the degree to which they still try to marginalize black voters and try to, I don't know any other word to say it, but, keep black people down and oppressed in spite of all the litigation and in spite of the majority conservative justices saying that, there's no racism, so we don't need special rules. Why don't you guys kind of get out in real life and see what a distorted position that really is? Because, after the Supreme Court allowed found there was no racial discrimination in that Louisiana voting case, then the dissenting justices read, what really happened into the record. And guys, this is gonna be a kind of I don't know how good of a summer this is gonna be. Uh, I mean, the weather's spectacular, but we don't need another year of drought. And it would just be nice to get back to having a normal kind of season. And hang on, uh, blow my nose here. We're a little congested today on the old Abby Kaufman show. Okay, so here we are, July 4th weekend, big celebration. What's everybody gonna do? Watch little fireworks, drink a little cerveza. Sometimes there's so much firecrackers going off. I feel like I'm in downtown Beirut doing a celebration of some sort. but we'll be packing it up here in about 10 minutes. And oh, you know what? Tomorrow's Friday. While we don't necessarily get a day off, I think. Oh, I'll have to see. It'd be a good weekend too. Oh, with the fourth being Saturday, I cannot imagine what the beaches could be like. And they have this in Newport. They have a free shuttle that goes from Avon Street down the peninsula, makes periodic stops, and it just so happens. I can't believe the coincidence. It just so happens to make a stop a block from the American Legion. And you may think that's not important, but I think it's hugely important. And it's hugely important to me because they have decent beer. They're on the water. Matter of fact, it's the only American Legion with its own yacht club. But anyway, so there's a shuttle that will take you there for free. You park near the Holiday Inn on the Coast Highway. Uh, so anyway, you park it on the Coast Highway, and I said shuttle you to and from. And then you're like, huh, guys, it doesn't really have to be this way, does it? Why don't we just kind of take our time? And you're like, okay. And you see what a real treat it is to be able to not rush and still be thorough and just keep being a productive member of society. So, like I said, the big deal today is money, where it's come from, who's going to get it, how do we get it. And to that, I also want to give a little shout out to Oscar at Oscar's Auto Electric in 17th Street, Santa Ana. I have a small pump put on my car, and when he got one of his guys to throw it up on the rack and do it, and it was just, I couldn't imagine doing it. I'm not allowed to have tools. So I was at a severe disadvantage, and we can only hope now that this will make the old check engine light go off so we can get a small certificate and be a legal member of society. I hate being a criminal in any way, but we gotta work around this small certificate deal somehow. So let's see. Shout out to Oscar, and you know who else we give a little shout out to? How about the women at the Dollar Tree on Fairview in Costa Mesa, California? Uh, those women, I'm telling you, to deal with what they deal with, they really do need a raise. So if you got any influence at the Dollar Tree, let's get those guys paid decently. Okay. So what do you think the crowd's gonna be like for the fourth the I guess the highlight for the Trump the extended Trump speech? And 88 degrees is that's tolerable, but he is 80 years old, and this is gonna be 9 at night, so of course he'll sleep all day. Uh, and how about? Don't you love the reports coming from the White House about his midnight snacking habits? Uh, the housekeeping staff, of course, they've never seen anything like this. And there's a band that said something like, whose name was, and you shall know them by the trail of tears. It's like, and you should know Trump by the way of the crumbs, like a little bird trail. You might think about leaving little crumbs in a trail if you're ever lost. Well, I think we've got a better use for that. Uh, so I tell you what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to be pretty much the inauguration. Oh, first of all, they're going to be going nuts in the next 2 days trying to get people there. Uh, and if there's, and they may be successful. I don't think they're going to be 45,000 people successful, but let's say they're, and I'm going to say 5,000 people doesn't seem like much on the mall either. He's probably got to have a decent crowd, or else he's going to look really bad. And wouldn't we hate for that to happen? Uh, I think the crowd is going to be. I think it's going to be a little bigger than it was, but I still don't see over 2,000 people. I'd say it doubles. I'm sure they're begging people to drive in and whatever, but don't forget the gas prices are still up, and what are we really celebrating here? The fact that a president can be a criminal and make over $1 billion, he didn't make, let's get this kind of clear, and exploit the office and thereby exploit the United States citizens for, $1 billion. And if anybody knows Trump, they know he would, that'd be a good deal in his book. So, guys, the kind of some concluding thoughts since we're where we are and my voice is not getting any better. I'm if I had to pick on anything to celebrate, uh, I would choose to celebrate the fact that we've got more and more volunteers stepping up to help in homeless shelters, in food kitchens or food pantries, whatever that is. And let's. I'd like to think that this, for every person that helps like that they affect others. And if they don't affect others in a way that makes them volunteer also, that it will affect others and so far as how they exercise their right. And guys, the right to vote is the distinguishing feature of a democracy, and we cannot waste it. You've seen the rules being actively changed to minimize Democrats' votes, and guys, that's just not fair. It's one person, one vote, and you count them all. Uh, but again, when you lie like that, uh, uh, all bets are off. Especially when you lie to people that don't mind you lying to them, that actually take some comfort because in their mind you are the Messiah, you are the Prince of Peace, you are bringing the divine message. It just so happens that it's a materialistic divine message, and you might not be able to make $1.4 billion like me, but if you look around hard, you can probably swindle somebody, and isn't that much more the vibe you get? As let me help you swindle somebody, rather than let's make America great again. What a nauseating thing that was. Uh, you know, you've got to have some humility in the world. And just because you are the biggest, baddest, you know, country, military, whatever it is, doesn't mean you govern by it. It doesn't mean you throw it around whenever you feel the need. Because don't forget, when Donald Trump does this stuff, he feels the need. It's not like it's not there's any plan for this. He feels the need. He doesn't need any objective evidence or justification or anything. He just does it by his gut, which clearly explains how Netanyahu was able to manipulate him. And when you've got the mental constitution that Donald Trump has, I don't think he's terribly difficult to figure out, particularly that he's 80. And what's that thing? Cerebral arteriosclerosis. I think that's the arteries in the brain start to harden a little bit. And I don't keep up with all the medical articles about Trump, but you would have to have at least be justified in speculating, and what might not be evidence, but you would be justified in speculating that a lifetime of you know poor food choices and no exercises would catch up to you. And just speaking about catching up, how about Trump taking that old Qatar jet for a spin? Do we have any idea what kind of devices could have been put in there? Is there any doubt that Trump's guys did not do a very thorough job of, sweeping the plane or cleaning the plane or whatever euphemism spies use to see if there's any place with any bugs in it? So, guys, I've ran and raved for about an hour now. My voice is really going. I can only hope that everybody really does get the fact this is an all hands on deck alert, and we've got to get you know let's nail these midterms. And it's like I was telling someone the other day, we'll beat them so bad they'll be screaming for mommy. They were expecting a blue wave and got a blue tsunami. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and call it a day on Thursday, July 2nd.